everyone. Welcome to Eternal Life Plan. You know me, I'm Christine Harrington, and I have a very special guest coming on today, Dr. Christine Bacon. And she is going to help clear up all the confusion around the October prophecies. We're going to talk about the October prophecies and probably a few other things as well. But let me tell you about Dr. Christine Bacon, who I am sure you all know because of her podcast, Breakfast with Bacon. But she is actually a communication and relationship expert. She's an author, a speaker, a trainer, a longtime university professor, and the host of what I just said, a radio talk show, Breakfast with Bacon. She wrote an acclaimed book, The Super Couple, A Formula for Extreme Happiness in Marriage. Now, she has helped millions worldwide to improve their understanding and contributions within relationships. I wish I would have had her before my divorce years ago. But she is all about enhancing couples' relational experiences within the mind, heart, family, workplace, community, and beyond. And I am so honored to bring on Dr. Christine Bacon. Thank you, Dr. Bacon.
Well, first of all, call me Christine so we can confuse everybody. And it seems I only do work with Christine's. I'm also the co-host with Christine Watkins on her show, Finding Your Way Home. So I joked when you contacted me. It's like, of course I will, because you're another Christine. You know?
Right. Isn't it crazy? So I know I've met you now. I follow Christine Watkins as well. Also, I know Christine Niles from Church Militant.
That's right. We all have Christ in our name.
Yes. And then Christine Chrisley, who's also a former Church Militant reporter. Yeah. And my name, Christine. So we're just a bunch of Christian Christines.
That's right. Funny thing, Christine, my mom told me when she was pregnant with me, she almost named me Karen. And considering this day and age, I'm like, oh, thank God I'm not a Karen, you know?
Especially nowadays.
Right? It's so funny. But right. Thank you. I'm so honored to be on your show.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Christine. So let's just dive right into it, shall we?
Yes.
And what I'd like for you to explain to the audience, who are the modern day prophets and what is a prophet? You know, my channel is mostly Catholic followers, but, you know, I know you told me to call you Christine. I just have this
I appreciate
propensity to call you Dr. Bacon. Can you explain about what prophets are?
So I wanted to look up just the simple definition, right? And the simple definition is a person regarded as an inspired teacher or proclaimer of the will of God. Inspired teacher or proclaimer of the will of God. The thing is the Bible talks about there will be people who will be prophets and you won't listen to them, or there'll be people who will not be prophets and will be tempted to listen to them. So we have to be very careful. And he's always saying, discern the spirits. Many will come in my name. And so it's our job to figure out, you know, who are the real prophetic voices, who are not. And one of the things that we talk about these days, specifically if you listen to my show with Christine and a lot of these people that you mentioned, is the prophetic consensus. So you'll have a person who people will say, that man's a prophet, that woman's a prophet. The prophetic consensus is, what are the prophets from around the world saying? So right now, for instance, at Countdown to the Kingdom's website, they have collected the church approved prophets, are the people who are in the process of being approved. They will not collect anybody who is not church approved, which is very good, right? And so you'll have Gisela Cardia from Italy, and she has had approval there. You have Luz de Maria de Bonilla from, I believe, Spain. I'm going to be upset if I mess that up. We have the prophetic voices of people in the past. Right now, we've heard from Dr. or Father Oliveira, which is a pseudonym, and he's a priest in Brazil, and so on and so forth. So when they get these messages, for instance, there are some you have to decide, is that from God or is that from their head? And all of these that I just mentioned are coming in this prophetic consensus. All the things that they're saying are in line with the gospel. There was one, and I won't mention the name because that's not my place, is slander or anything, but Christine Watkins and I, for instance, were talking about this particular person who a lot of people follow and go, what do you feel about that that man? I can say it's a man, that narrows it down to 4 billion people. And some of the things he said were really in line with the prophetic consensus, but then there'd be things like, and God says the Democratic Party is evil and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, I don't know that God has ever singled out now I, as a human, can look at it and think, yeah, I don't like the Democratic platform in America or whatever. But so you have to discern. And there have been a couple things that particular person has said that makes me and Christine in this example a little bit like, I don't know if I want to believe or listen to the things that he or she says. But Christine, the idea of prophet is we have got to keep our ears open, be wise as a serpent, gentle as a dove. And that's why I've had people on my show that some people agree with, some people disagree. Father Michel Rodrigue, people say he's a fraud. Well, wait a minute. His bishop has not disavowed him. Some people have said his prophecies have been in line with the prophetic consensus, except for one, which he says was changed, conditional change, but we don't know. But the point is I've had him on my show, and I've had other, people who are seen as prophetic, people who are speaking about what's going on in the world. And I say at the beginning or the end of each of my shows is that I do not want to be part of cancel culture. I want to put these voices out there, and I want you, the listener, to discern. Get on your knees, get in front of adoration, receive the Eucharist, pray your backside off, and ask the Holy Spirit to continue to guide you as to which messages. It's like be the holy sieve. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does, Christine. And, some of the things that I see out there on social media about these modern day prophets, and I'll be honest with you, I was out of the church from like 1979 to 2008. And when I came back into the church, I never considered that there were modern day prophets. I thought, of course, the last public prophets and prophecy was the Bible.
Right.
However, all of these other prophecies that are coming through these modern day prophets are private revelations.
Correct.
And the church doesn't call us to believe them. The church calls us to discern them.
Yes.
So lots, and then what I see is people, oh, he didn't get that exactly right, so he's a fake.
Right.
Right? Can you address that?
Yeah. So there are, well, I kind of was just touching on that there. The prophetic consensus is, what are all these people? And Christine, you've got people right now from every nation around the world that is receiving locutions, which means they hear it. Some receive visions from our mother, St. Michael the Archangel, sometimes Jesus himself, just like St. Faustina did, but around the world in various languages. But they're all saying the same things. So that's why I wanted to remind like this prophetic consensus. And I brought up Father Michel Rodrigue. Before I kind of answer it, so I want to pocket that. So there's 3 statuses the church says. The church says absolutely worthy of belief. And so they've gotten the stamp of approval from the Vatican or their local bishop or someone who has the power in the Catholic Church to approve of it. Then you have the absolutely not. That is not worthy of belief. Do not accept it. It's been condemned. And then the one in the middle is it's neither been condemned nor approved yet. It's still under research. So those are the ones that I really want you to pay attention to, not the ones that have been, defamed, but the ones that are definitely approved, like Fatima. nearly every Catholic watching this show knows about Fatima, and they're like, oh yeah, church says it. It's like, well, remember, that too is just private revelation. But 70,000 people witnessed the miracle of the sun on October 13th, next week, right? October 13th, 1917. And in that moment, people were confessing their sins out loud altogether because I thought it was the end of the world, but none of them heard the other person. So this was atheists and politicians and journalists and Catholics and non-Catholics. And so I kind of want to just start with that one because that's the most famous. But then we have the ones that the church has approved. I think I'm almost forgetting the question. Can you remind me so I don't go off track? Because I think I just may have done that.
No, you didn't. I was asking, well, actually, I forgot my question.
Good, two Christines. But I'm a blonde. I have an excuse. I'm kidding.
Well, I'm a fake Auburn, so.
But I know we were talking about, prophetic consensus was a thing I think I've covered. So the three layers there. And then one of the ones I always like to refer to is Father Michel. He's one of the ones that when I've had him on my show, everyone's going, this man has said so many things that have come true. But
excuse me, that was the question. So many people, if every little detail isn't exactly right, they declare the prophet a fake.
Right.
And I know that happened to him. And I also know that you came to his aid in that storyline.
Mm-hmm. He had prophesied that Pope Benedict would be martyred. And when Pope Benedict died on December 31st, and he died naturally, people were going, he didn't die the way he said he was going to die. Everything else he's ever said in his life is fake. And it's like, well, now that is, you don't want to be in that position. And according to Father Michel, 3 days before the Pope died, he had gotten a vision from God saying that the Pope is actually going to die naturally. And then that prophecy has been averted. Now, the other controversy there is that there's two different types of prophecies. This is going to happen like a virgin will be with a child. A child will be born in Bethlehem. He will be the savior. And those are non-conditional. That's going to be absolute. There's nothing you humans in the world can do to change that. And then there are conditional prophecies, such as the one Mary gave to the children at Fatima and said, if you do not pray and fast, if you do not repent, if the world doesn't change, there will be a worse war. And there was. And then she's talked about, you've got to start doing the first Friday and the first Saturday devotions, which today's the first Friday, right? Go to Mass, receive the Eucharist, adoration, tomorrow, confession, Mass. And if the Pope doesn't consecrate Russia to my Immaculate Heart, Russia will spread its errors. But if you pray and fast and do all these things, you can avert that. Well, Russia was never consecrated in the way Mary asked, was never consecrated to her Immaculate Heart. And thus communism, many of us are seeing, has spread its errors around the world. We are seeing the fruits of that now. So when Father Michel had made his prophecy about the Pope, he didn't say it was conditional. So while some people are like, well, okay, it's conditional, like Nineveh, right? No one said in Nineveh, 40 days more, Nineveh's going to be, you're going to get blasted because you guys are such bad sinners. Jonah didn't go through saying, but if you pray and fast, it'll change it. It was a prophecy that didn't happen because people changed. So there's that argument there on the conditional and the non-conditional. Was that vision that Father Michel got that the Pope was going to be martyred, was that conditional? Was it not? So I am not educated nor in the authority of being able to say, well, that wasn't conditional. He was just wrong, or it was conditional and people did pray because they were so traumatized by that. So God changed his mind, like he changed his mind at Nineveh. I don't know that that's a point that we want to necessarily go down, just to know that basically, Christine, there are those two types of prophecies.
Well, I didn't know that. So that was new to me. So I appreciate you explaining that, Christine. So let's go into the actual October prophecies that have everyone's been talking about. And I have this book. If you all do not have this book, I cannot tell you enough. You need to get it. And it's by, and you may help me with his name, Xavier Rees Ariel.
Yeah, but that's the American way of saying it. But his French was Xavier. So I've mastered that. Xavier Reyes Ariel. He's a Frenchman who lives in Miami, and I now consider him a dear friend. And that book is, if I remember the tagline, is the hidden secret prophecies of our Blessed Virgin Mary.
Yeah, the hidden secret messages and prophecies of the Blessed Virgin Mary. It is loaded with all of them.
Yeah, it is a thick book, but it is a page turner. And it, I have a lot of people that come on my show and they all send books, and these are great books. I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to read this book. I have a stack that I can never get to, so I skim them before I have them on my show. That book from Xavier, 572 pages, I think. I am reading every single page, and I do a podcast with him after, every 100 or so pages to talk about it. But he actually brought into that book some of the prophecies that were hidden from us and some that were secret, like, for instance, the third secret of Fatima, which we still 100% don't know. Except for, you want me to jump into that one?
Yeah, go ahead, right ahead.
So when our mother appeared to the 3 children at Fatima, she gave them 3 secrets. And the first 2 secrets had been revealed. And I think one of them was a world war. I don't remember the other one, but she'd give them in, here's the vision, and then here's what it means. Here's the vision, here's what it means. And she gave a third secret and said, this one is not to be released until, so the first 2 children at Fatima, Jacinta and Francisco, died early, as she had predicted. She told them, you guys are going to be with me quickly. And Lucia, I have some friends in Portugal who told me that's how you say her name in Portuguese. Lucia was told this third secret and said, this should be revealed only by the Pope. So she had to write it in a sealed envelope, give it to the Pope. Should only be revealed by the Pope in 1960 or when you die, whichever comes first. So, of course, she lived until the 90s. So 1960 came, the Pope read it, believe that was Pius VI, and he said, no, I'm not telling anybody. So first of all, is it unholy if I say the word like ballsy? I'm like, that's really arrogant. I don't know what was contained in that message, but for him to say, I don't think the people of the world are ready for this, and to go against our mother, I just know that when he met God, I just would not have wanted to answer for that one. I pray he repented. No judgment. So it wasn't until the year 2000 when Pope John Paul II, because of under a lot of pressure from people, what's in that secret? What's in that secret? Finally released the secret. Well, what they did is they released the vision part and said, oh, that's it. That's a whole thing. Well, that doesn't make sense. The first 2 secrets were a vision and then the explanation of the vision. Why this time is it just a vision? That's what Mary would want to do. And the vision was, and forgive me for not having it in front of me, but the vision was of two popes, right? Or like a pope in a mirror, I believe is what it said. It was pope in a mirror going up a hill, and the hill would be strewn with bodies, and the pope would try to save, people or I got to save the church, and he would be martyred at that time. So something like that. And that's what the vision showed. We're like, okay, well, what's that mean? But that's it. There's no interpretation. So to this day, the Vatican has not even admitted that there is a second part, though the rest of the people following it, those of us who are trying our best to educate ourselves, are going, that's fishy, and we don't believe you. So
let me interrupt you right there.
Yeah.
Christine. Has people said that this will tie into the October prophecies?
So yes. So I want to kind of go there. Yeah.
Okay.
After a bunch of pushback, It was Sister Agnes Sasagawa in 1973 received a vision, locutions from her Blessed Mother. And do you want me to just give you the short? I'll give you the short version, right? So
Okay.
she was deaf and she had received her hearing. She was told she was going to get her hearing back. She did. The statue there in her convent was bleeding and shedding tears, and it's been studied. So it's been a validated prophecy. In the prophecies to Sister Agnes Sasagawa in 1973, and if I remember correctly, that too was on October 13th of 1973. So the same day as Our Lady appeared to Fatima. Then here on October 13th, she appears to Sister Agnes, gives her this vision, gives her this explanation. Her bishop, Bishop Ito, I-T-O of Japan, I'm giving you the very short version, was believing immediately in what she saw. He eventually met with the future Pope Benedict, who was then in charge of the dicastery of the doctrine of faith, I believe. Don't hold me to that, but I think that's what he was in charge of. So Bishop Ito gave him all the explanations, all the understanding. He's like, this is what was said in this vision. And if you have it in front of you there, possibly you can read it. But St. Pope Benedict said, let me go, read this and I'll come back to you tomorrow. So we met the next day and he said, there'll be no further study. And Bishop Ito was like, what? What do you mean? What do you mean? This is that you got everything about this has been validated. And Pope Benedict, again, he wasn't Pope at the time, was like, hold on. The reason there'll be no more further study is this is accepted immediately because this message that was given to Sister Agnes Sasagawa was the exact same as the third secret of Fatima. So we're looking at this October 13th date that our mother is showing is very important. So fast forward. Oh, and in that vision too, it talked about basically Satan, the Antichrist, would sit on the chair of Peter, talked about you will see bishops opposing bishops, cardinals opposing cardinals, priests opposing priests, and so on and so forth, which is what we're seeing right now. Mm-hmm. So if you fast forward to this year, Father Oliveira, he is a priest, as I said, down in Portugal, and that is his pseudonym, started publicizing, and he was asked to publicize them. He's in good standing with his bishop. His bishop knows about the secrets and apparently approves. But there was another guy who studied prophecies. His name was Lucas in Brazil, and he got in touch with Father Oliveira at one point years ago. And basically he said, Father Oliveira, these things that are being prophesied are all taking place. If you don't tell us, if you don't make these visions that you're getting public, people won't think that they're prophecies and they can't prepare for them. So he agreed to say, okay, publicize these things. So in June of this year, Father Oliveira basically got a message that says, beware of October. And in it, it said, things are going to start toppling. All the things, basically the chastisements are going to start happening this October. There's a little bit of confusion in the message because at one point it says it will not be in a big bang, but then in another message kind of alluded to that there might be a big bang this month, but it did say what is going to happen is going to happen one by one, and people who are not watching may not discern it. So things like I'm hearing other speakers talk about a real estate collapse, which is going to lead to a stock market collapse, which is going to lead to the collapse of the dollar, famines, inflation coming up, famine, so on and so forth. And then the Blessed Virgin said to Father Oliveira, and on October 13th, I will give you the sign that you asked for. And I think that's what you're kind of looking for right now. So what many of us are saying is that going to be a sign just for Father Oliveira? Or is that a sign all of us will see? And when I listened to a podcast with Lucas recently talking about Father Oliveira to Our Lady, I always get her, forgive me, Monique, her station messed up. Mother of Refuge of End Times is what I believe it was. And that's the show that he was on. And on that show, he clarified that, yes, the secret, the sign, the miracle, whatever is supposed to be just for him. But if something in particular happens, they will reveal the secret to many of us watching. So that's one of the things that we're looking at. But then this is where you're looking for this convergence in October. The predictions at Garabandal, Spain said after a synod, takes place, the stuff will start happening. Well, the synod just began 2 days ago, the synod on synodality. And when that was said to Conchita in Garabandal, Conchita's mom said to her, "Do you mean a council?" And remember, these are, country girls back in Spain. And she said, "No, our mother said synod." So that wasn't even a word that they used. So here we are in 2023. We have a synod taking place in the month of October. We have another prophecy from Fatima, which said, when the Pope will go to Moscow, and when he returns, a greater war will break out, and so on and so forth. So we've seen the war that's taken place now, started last year. Our Pope is talking about going to Moscow this month. We don't know if he will for sure. We know that the synod is taking place. We know that Father Oliveira said something is going to start this month, and he will get a sign. For all of us following, all I say, Christine, is keep your lamps filled with oil, keep your eyes open, be on your knees in prayer, because the prophetic consensus is saying something is happening this month.
Well, and October 13th happens to be Friday the 13th. It's
right.
Too. I know you followed Father James Blunt, and he has talked about the vision that he had on 3 different occasions on the same day, where he looked up and the Blessed Mother had released a fabric of black that wrapped the globe. And she did it 3 different times for him to see that vision. And he has also alluded that something like that is maybe a blackout is going to happen with technology in October. And then, as you know, he canceled all of his engagement, and he has, retreated into prayer now. And I understand that Father Lowell has done the same thing. He has retreated into prayer as well. So there is definitely something that's stirring in October, and just by all of these breadcrumbs that have been left for us to pay attention to. And the other thing I want to talk to you about, Christine, is there's been a lot of mixed messages that Catholics are getting about October. That one of these is there are a bunch of Catholic podcasters saying that the 3 days of darkness will happen in October. And, but that doesn't, I can't remember what priest said this or where I heard this from. I was digging around last night trying to find where I heard this from. But the 3 days of darkness comes at the end, not at the beginning.
Correct.
Is that correct, Christine?
Correct. The 3 days of darkness is not near if we're looking at the progression of events. Many things have to happen. It's easier to say this. Let's go backwards. The 3 days of darkness is the final thing that's going to take place to cleanse the earth when we wake up, if we are here for that. It's the last thing to take place before the triumph of the Immaculate Heart. So there are going to be chastisements. We are going to be punished. We're going to see a lot of things. There's going to be famine. There's going to be pestilence. There's going to be hurricanes, tsunamis, all these world events taking place. And in many of these things that are taking place, the disease that's coming is going to kill like 25% of the world. The famine's going to kill approximately 25% of the world. I may be getting my numbers incorrect, but I remember listening to these things going, well, that's 25, that's 25. So we're going to get down to, after the 3 days of darkness, 25% of the current world population. So 6 billion people are going to be dying first. And pretty much the remnant is all that's going to be left. That 3 days of darkness is said to be when Moses had his the plagues that came in order. The very last thing was the 3 days of darkness where the firstborn died. It is supposed to be like that, and we are not supposed to look out our windows. My husband and I, for instance, have purchased shades for nearly every window so far, the blackout shades, because we're not allowed to look out of our windows. Satan will be lying to us at that time. He will, for instance, I had a daughter that lived in DC, and it would be your daughter banging on the door going, Mom, let me in, let me in. I drove down here. Well, and it said, do not open the door for anyone. So you have to be aware of what's happening in these things. But if we look outside when the 3 days of darkness are taking place, we will then die as well. Kind of like Lot's wife turned into a pillar of salt. But I know that when we wake up at the end of that 3 days of darkness, the purification will have been done. Will we see dead bodies strewn in the streets, or will the angels have cleaned them up for us before we go out of our houses? Because it's going to be what we heard after the 3 days of darkness, very disorienting. I presume God is going to shoot the satellites out of the sky. Internet's going to be gone. The ways of communication, I don't even know if we'll still have TV and radio, because God is going to knock us back down. But we are going to have, they said, enough scientific discoveries, such as some of the medical things that we'll need. But that will be the triumph of the Immaculate Heart, and the beginning of the Our Father prayer will finally be taking place. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. I gotta always do it out loud. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So it's not the end of the world, but the end of this era, and the Our Father will finally be lived out with who's ever left in the world at that time, right? So if you go backwards, Christine, that is at the end of the warning, the miracle, the 3.5 years of the Antichrist, the refuges, all of these things that we have, the martyrdoms, and it's going to end with that. So we're not there yet, because we still haven't even had the warning.
Yes, exactly. So I wanted to make that clear to the audience, because I have seen this all over Catholic podcasters, that the 3 days of darkness is supposed to happen in October. And I did not think that was accurate.
There may be a blackout, as you said. There may be a blackout, but not the 3 days of darkness as prophesied. Because the church has to be underground before the warning even comes.
Well, and they also said, gosh, I wish I could have found a source that I was looking at, that it was going to be extremely cold weather, and it will start, the 3 days of darkness will start during the day, and it'll be extremely cold weather like you've never felt before.
Out of season too, I believe. I believe it's going to be out of season. So perhaps in the spring or the summer, when you expect warmth, and it's going to be the shortest days.
Yes, exactly. So I've got my candles back there.
We have ours.
Ready.
And for people buying your beeswax candles that you get blessed, you don't have to buy giant ones. Even if you get the tiniest candle, it is going to stay lit for the 3 days, and it will extinguish at the end of the 3 days of darkness.
Yeah. And that's a good point, Christine, because we're supposed to burn the candles all through the 3 days, and pray on our knees and pray, and don't be fooled by Satan. When your son or daughter is frantic at the door trying to get in, they would be dead if they were outside.
Correct.
So don't be fooled by Satan and these little tricks that he's going to try to play. I'm still trying.
And don't dread, Christine, what you were just saying. I'm so sorry for cutting in, but don't dread the rosary things, because I hear people going, I have to pee in 3 days. We sit in my dark house saying the rosary. What if I get hungry? Apparently we won't get hungry. We aren't going to be tired. We are going to want to say the rosary 24/7. We are going to we will not want to do anything else, because it's going to be so impressed on us that we will constantly just be praying, and we'll just be just doing this out of desire and love, and time is not even going to be a concern to us at that point.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to do with my husky, but
It'll be fine. I think that they're supposed to be resting or sleeping, almost like a hibernation kind of thing. So we just shouldn't worry about any of the things that we can't control. God's going, girls, I got the details. Just prepare your hearts, prepare your minds. I got the details.
Be in a state of grace. That's what you gotta worry about. Just be in a state of grace.
Yes. Show done. You just said the most important things. We're done.
Oh my. Well, Christine, is there anything else about the October prophecies that we need to know?
I mean, I think what you just said is so important, and that's what we're telling people. It's been said, because I know Father Rodrigue is also, as you said, those other priests, is remaining in a state of prayer, is not traveling. Many people have canceled their traveling plans. And oh, gracious, I had a really awesome thought in my head and then it just kind of went away. It just went out of my head. I apologize. But no, we need to stay abreast of what's happening. No, it'll come back to me. I am so embarrassed. I hate when that happens.
No, it happens to me all the time. And, I had mentioned to you over the phone that I had talked to 2, 3 weeks ago, Sandra Abrahams. And audience, if you don't know who she is a Catholic woman that had a near-death experience back in the 70s. And those of you that have followed me know that I've really struggled with my own near-death experience, because so many Catholics that have them, all of a sudden, they just kick the Catholic faith to the side and say you don't need it. And I have never, ever wanted to do that. But Sandra, when I called to talk to her, Christine, about my near-death experience and to help me with it, and she did greatly, she had said to me, "Are you traveling in October?" And I said, "Well, just locally." And she said, "Well, that'll be fine, but just don't travel great distances in October." And I was like, "Really?" And she said, "Yes, Jesus told her that everyone needs to be careful when they're traveling in airplanes and long distances in October."
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Go ahead. Do you have any more information about
Well,
that?
so, we have to be so careful with it. When I'm planning a conference, and I saw that you had the flyer up, and
We'll talk about that flyer in a minute.
yeah, the conference is October 28th here in Virginia Beach. And it is basically talking about a lot of this prophecy. It's the Truth Speakers, Disrupting the Culture with Truth Conference. And when we first started hearing about this October stuff, and that was only a couple months ago that we really, is my co-founder of the Truth Speakers and I, Reagan Long, we were like, should we cancel this conference or not? And then, we prayerfully said, if the Lord wants it canceled, he's going to cancel it for us. He's going to stop the money from coming in. He's going to stop the tickets. He's going to call us, and some of our speakers are going to say, can't come in. We have coming into that conference, Christine Watkins, who wrote the book, The Warning, about the illumination of conscience. And she talks about the 3 days of darkness. She's extremely educated, even more so than me. You need to have her on the show. I know you're going to, on these topics. And so when I talked with her, it's like, you know what? Stay in a state of grace. She's still planning to fly here. My other speakers, I have 2 of them flying, and the rest are driving here. Daniel O'Connor, who wrote the book about "Thy will be done," the Lord's Prayer being fulfilled on earth. So these are people who are very well aware of these prophecies, and they're being careful, like you and I are, but they're still coming in. So what I'd like to say to people is, do not stop living your life. Keep your eyes open. But sometimes Satan gets in and tries to manipulate it, like perhaps make us feel, perhaps Satan was planning on doing something in October. He stops everyone from doing things, but then Satan goes, okay, I'm going to actually wait till November. I'm going to freak them out. So maybe he ended some events because, Satan's just an evil chess player. He's trying to outdo God. So I think my answer would be, yeah, be careful. I am going to my sister's 60th birthday party in New Hampshire. I cannot not go, especially since the rest of my family is, well, that particular sister's an atheist. I have a couple of them who are, nominal or agnostic. And they'd be like, you're in that case, you're not coming to her birthday party for what, so I am driving instead of flying. When I was contemplating flying, I have more control over my destinations. But you know what? If the Lord wants to take me, he's going to take me. And if he wants to protect me from what is about to happen, he will protect me. So all of the stuff you're talking about, Christine, is really grace and faith. Have faith, be in your state of grace, and then have faith that God is going to let you keep on doing what you need to do. And you're not nonchalantly doing things that, you dismiss God and you dismiss prophecy. Does that make sense?
Right, exactly. It makes perfect sense, Christine. And I want to encourage the viewers to drop some comments or questions that you might have for Dr. Bacon in the comment section. She'd be happy to answer them. So it makes perfect sense. And I actually looked into going to your conference, but it's the same weekend we're having a Rachel's Vineyard retreat in central Indiana. So I've already committed on being a facilitator, but I'm going to be watching out for your next conferences.
Thank you. And we're selling the recordings of this. We're having Father Altier, who everybody that's coming to this conference are people who were canceled in some way, or, Facebook jail on YouTube or whatever. So we wanted to provide an environment where viewers could hear the uncensored truth and have a great meal in a room. It's going to be set up like a wedding. You can actually sit at a table with your favorite speaker. You have to pay a little extra for that and get access to that speaker for that whole lunch hour, dinner hour. But they will be delivering the truth of what's going on in the church, the truth of what's going on with the warning, the truth of what's going on with in Hollywood, things that we can do. How can we fight this? But if I had to sum it up, Christine, I'd say it's a spiritual warfare conference. It's a how-to conference, and it's going to be amazing. So you can buy the videos, and they're only $20. If you don't want to travel in for it, just go to truthspeakers.org and click on the link to buy the videos. And then as soon as the conference is done, within a week, we'll ship those off to you. And yeah, those are images from last year. We had Father Altman, Abby Johnson, Jesse Romero. Oh my gosh, it was such a powerhouse. And the Holy Spirit was flying through the room, which is why we looked at each other and said, got to do it again next year. And we'll do it in 2024 unless the Lord tells us otherwise.
Well, you have Doug Barry coming, and I'm shout out to Doug Barry because I'm doing his Indomitable course right now, which I absolutely love. I'm not familiar with Alexis. Is it Walkenstein? Can you tell a little more about that?
I was so funny because she's the one that I only just recently met by phone. I knew the other speakers, but my co-founder, Reagan Long, had a podcast with her as the guest. But she is, as it says there, she's an Emmy Award winning producer, I believe, producer and director, who is a solid Catholic Christian in the Hollywood area. And now she travels, she just spreads the word of Christ. And she's going to be there telling us how to navigate and just be 100% on fire for the Lord. It's not that any of us is going to have a Hollywood stars that we're going to be, giving the gospel to, but really talking about what is going on there. I mean, we talk about a lot of the satanic worship. I don't know if she's going to address this yet, but the satanic worship that's taking place in California and all the evil things. And it's not just California. No. We know that the borders are open, and I will say this without naming names because I'm not allowed to yet, but we know that a Hollywood person that I have, anyway, we'll just leave it at that.
We don't know. We would all know.
You all know this person. Yes. Everyone watching this knows this person who, went on a raid, a sex trafficking raid, and saw children on meat hooks. That there is this adrenochrome, where you drink the blood of a child and you can have youth. This is happening. And if the child is tortured and there's more adrenaline, that's supposedly more youth. I don't want to really talk too much more about that on this podcast, but that's why the borders are being fought over, because one party is trying to keep the border open because bad guys are bringing in children who no one's going to say is missing in this country because they didn't come from this country, but they're using these children for these satanic sacrifices. And of course, we know sex trafficking, for instance, as well. But Alexis is, I don't know how much of any of that she's going to talk about, But we always want to have, like last year, a representative from Hollywood, because a lot of that is going through Hollywood and coming out onto the big screen. And how do we fight that? How do we fight that?
Exactly. Exactly. I so agree with you. And I know about those satanic rituals that they're using children for, and they're calling them spirit dinners. And
Oh,
just, I mean, it is so disturbing, Christine, that when I read something or watch something about it, and I'll be honest with you, oh, what was the movie? Sound of Freedom?
yeah. But
Yeah.
that one had Jim Caviezel in it.
Yes, yes. A buddy of mine, a Rachel's Vineyard buddy, asked me if I would go to see the movie with him. And I told him, I said, I don't know if I can. I mean, I want to support this movie. I don't know if I can, because there's two things that I will never understand: how people can be cruel to children and animals. I'll never get that as long. I mean, what kind of a mindset?
Monster.
Yeah, yeah. What kind
Have you
of,
not seen it yet?
I've not seen it.
You
No,
need to go
because,
see it. It won't take your mind in any of those places. These producers
okay.
and directors were so heavenly inspired that they got the point across, because they said, and they looked in the camera like, we don't want to give traffickers anything that they would like take joy in, or be. So they get the message across without ever saying the message. And it
Okay.
gives you a picture of how this is done. You know, we've all heard of Epstein Island. So there's a scene
Oh,
in there.
yeah.
You're like, oh, that's how they do it. But no, you won't see anything disturbing. You will just be infused with knowledge and awareness and go, now I get it. And it's done so well.
Okay. All right. That relieves me.
Yeah, it's worth seeing. And I want to go see it again. And I only saw it once back in July.
And you know what, Christine, I want to pivot to you. I pivot to the work you're doing, and I want to show the viewers a little bit about your website, and your YouTube channel. This is Dr. Christine's website. I love your videos. And one of them that was about retirement, that was like, yes, thank you.
Right? Because I'm 58 and I have no plans of retiring, you know.
Right, right.
Yeah,
Because I enjoy what I do so much. I'm in my real life, I'm a sales coach and trainer. And I love what I do so much in my real life that it's like, I don't want to stop, doing this.
mhm.
And let me show them your YouTube channel, because you've got a robust YouTube channel too. Whoops, did I unclick off of it? There it went. Okay, there it is. You've got a really robust YouTube channel. And let me see if I can find that video. Retirement is not biblical.
There it is. It's the second row right there
Yeah.
on the left. I got to beat up a little bit on that one because I didn't phrase myself properly. So I have the correction above it. If you look at that first row. But basically, yeah, that video was saying, look, retirement is not biblical. God says we're supposed to work the earth until we die. We should never live and take something for free. And what I hadn't clarified, so I did the second video, was that no, you're allowed to retire. It's just that the Bible verse where the guy says, now I've filled my silos, I built big barns, now I can rest and eat and drink and be merry and enjoy everything that I've worked in. The Lord says, you fool, this very night your life will be expected of you. So I was really talking about, we meet with financial planners, and a lot of people that are watching you right now are feeling guilty because they're like, I don't have a savings account. I don't have investments. And you go, well, you should have this much of your income put aside. And if you want to live and travel, you should have this much and have $500,000. And so my point of that video was saying to people, it's, first of all, Jesus is my savings account, right? So I could have there could be a Great Depression, which is expected now. The collapse of the market is going to be so great. It'll make the Great Depression look like child's play. But saying, when we do retire from our jobs, what, you still have a vocation. Are you praying for others? Are you serving others? Are you donating your time elsewhere? Are you taking care of your grandchildren? So that's really the point of that video. I really appreciate that you point to my channel, because my passion, Christine, is my standards ministry. So you'll see a lot of those videos and a lot of posts that talk about marriage. And it really refers to this prophetic that we're talking about, because the beginning, when our mother appeared to the children at Fatima, she said the final battle between God and Satan would be for marriage and the family. And so I have accidentally a standards ministry, and everybody says, what is a stander? And standers are those people who are standing for marital reconciliation while their spouse is cheating on them, is having an affair, has divorced them, has married the other woman or the other man, has a child with someone else, so on and so forth. The stander is the person who said, I pledged that I would stay married until the day I die. Now, nothing can change that. There are some pastors in some churches that have twisted that think that Jesus gives us an out for adultery, which he doesn't, but we can do that on another podcast. There is no adultery clause. Jesus said, yeah, that's what Moses gave you, but still, in present tense, he speaks, any man who leaves his wife forces her to commit adultery, and he does the same. Anyone who marries a divorced person does the same. So I don't want to really make this show about that, but these standards are amazing people who are the most rejected people because their friends and family say, you're ridiculous, move on. Your spouse has moved on. Why don't you move on too? And when we stand for truth, we are persecuted, because if I say, no, I'm standing for my marriage, even if my spouse never comes back, and I'm talking to you and you're on your second marriage or possibly third, or you've divorced your spouse, it convicts you. So standers are very convicted, and they're rejected by family members, friends, and sometimes their own children, because their children hurt so bad, they just want the pain done. And so my standards ministry, as I've realized over the, I've been doing it since 2014, is spiritual warfare. And we are fighting against what Satan is attempting to do in destroying the family. But you know what? We went from 4 people in my living room in 2016 to, after COVID forced us to Zoom, I now have over 300 people from 40 states and 10 countries in our group. We meet monthly on a Zoom meeting. There's a social media network that we have that no one else finds, just us, where they connect daily. And we've already had 20 or more of people who once said, I'll never get back with you. And they got back together. And that is thwarting Satan's plans, because couples are reconciling, and more will reconcile because we're standing on God's word, and I teach them how to do it.
Well, that is fabulous. Like I said, I wish I would have known about you long time ago, after going through a divorce. So
season, sure.
Yeah. So ladies and gentlemen, viewers, followers,
Catholics, fellow lovers of Jesus,
if you're having marital issues, or even if you just want to enhance your marriage, reach out to Dr. Bacon for counseling, for coaching on how to enhance and improve your marriage. I mean, when I was married, I wish I would have had that available to me and knew about it, and I didn't. So we're going to wrap up here, Dr. Bacon. Do you have any last thoughts or anything I should have asked you, but I didn't?
Oh, girl, 2 Christines talking could talk forever. You did a fantastic job. I think there's so much that we should all know, things that I don't know that I have to know, things that you should know that you don't yet know. And I just always hear the Lord saying those things that I've already said to you, and you so brilliantly said. Stay in a state of grace, discern the spirits, do not stop looking, keep your eyes open. You're never going to find 2 human beings that 100% agree on anything. And actually, this is kind of an answer to what you said earlier. Even in the Bible and the Gospels, some of the language is a little bit, different. And people say, see, they don't 100% agree. Like one gospel says Jesus said, forgive 77 times. And another gospel says 70 times, 7 times. Well, which did he say? Well, in reality, that's how people speak. How if you watch a car accident on the side of the road, 30 different people are going to give 30 different estimations, but the bulk of it is going to be the same. We saw this happen, and here's the outcome. So that's what we're supposed to do with prophecy as well. We may, all of these prophets that you see may get it a little bit different than the one next to them, but if they are in line with the prophetic consensus, meaning the meat of the message For instance, watch October. Be prepared, be in a state of grace. We anticipate something is going to happen. Then I think that's the best you can do. And in terms of marriage, thank you for that plug. Please go to my website, breakfastwithbacon.com. If you want to try to save your marriage, even if your spouse has already divorced you, look me up, Christine at breakfastwithbacon.com. And I will connect you to a community of holy men and women who are standing, and they will lift you up like Aaron and Hur lifted the arms of Moses. This is your people. This is your community. You are not delusional for wanting to stay reconciled to your spouse. And you know what? If it's a cross you carry for the rest of your life and your spouse never comes back, then when you die and you drop that cross at the foot of Jesus and he says, well done, my good and faithful servant. Other people drop that cross. You kept carrying it. Let me show you your reward. That's why we're here.
That's so hopeful too, isn't it?
It is. God is so good to us.
Thank you so much. It's just been a complete delight talking to you and just hearing your perspective on everything. I really appreciate you taking the time of your day to do this.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for having a podcast. You are being one of God's prophets as well. Just getting the message. You're a messenger. Get the message out. That's what you're doing.
That's what we're trying to do. Thank you, Christine. And
thank you.
Remember, everyone, eternal life is forever. Got a plan? Jesus should be your plan. Thank you, everyone. And Dr. Bacon, stay on for a little bit. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.